Hello and welcome to DNQ Football. All being well, you've come straight from our video talking about how qualification works in the CAF region for the 2026 World Cup. If you've missed that one, just click here and it'll take you there, and then you can come straight back here afterwards. Like the video, dislike the video, subscribe, all of that. You know how it goes.
Yeah, comment some hate, that would be good.
That would be great. 54 teams. 54 teams. In
It's a lot.
CAF, the African Football Confederation, or the Confederation of African Football, vying for 9.5 spaces. And in this video, we're going to run through all 9 groups from A to I, from pot 1 to pot 6, Morocco to Somalia. That's
Yes.
a FIFA rankings window rather than geographically. Wow. I mean, Ryan, as we kind of summed up in the last video, this is definitely one of the most exciting regions purely because of the amount of teams involved
So
and the
many
amount
teams.
of games played by the sides, primarily from our perspective in kind of pots 4, 5 and 6. But every team's going to play, at least 10 games in this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge, mate. It's huge. It's an exciting one, actually. And it's one of, if not the most exciting regions for this next World Cup, or one of the regions that I'm most excited to watch and follow the qualification journey, if that makes sense. Real rejig to the format, as we discussed on that last video. Previously, 1 round, 2 round, 3 rounds to whittle the teams down for 5 spots. Now it's almost doubled, 5 to 9.5. As you've already said, the Interconfed playoff is that 0.5 of a spot. We have 9 big chunky groups of 6 teams. I'm surprised that they play each other back to back, home and away, mate.
Yeah,
actually, I am surprised by that. I thought they would be single games. So yeah, each nation will play 10 matches as part of the qualification, home and away. And then, as you already touched on the format in the last video, the first place team in every group automatically, that's it. You signed, sealed, delivered. You're off to the World Cup. Go and enjoy yourself. Have a good, wonderful time. The 4 highest or the 4th best performing second place teams go through to the mini tournament pre the Interconfed. The winner of that goes through to that. That's about right. You summed it up better in the last video, but hey, we're taking this one a little slower and we're chilling out a bit more. Really excited. Pleased for the smaller nations, those pots 4, 5 and 6, mainly 5 and 6, to get more games. And also, I think more games provides more opportunities for the bigger sides to win, obviously, and accrue points, but also for slip-ups and for hurdles, and for you have to, you've got to be on it for the entirety of the campaign, because there are teams in Africa in that 2nd and 3rd bracket, pots 2, 3, and some even in 4 that will test you, and there's some horrible tough away days in Africa, and it will be great to see the challenges. As I said, the journey of this qualification campaign, mate. I'm really looking forward to it. Where do you want to go from? Where do you want to go from here? So we've discussed format, rejig, layout, all the teams. 54 teams at last, mate. So good. They deserve at least those 9.5 spots. Really great to see. 54 players. Where do you want to go now? Is it? I mean, it makes sense probably to start with Group A, but is there any particular way that you want to go about this and chat through some bits? Or
no, we're gonna touch on each group. There'll be teams that we focus on a little bit more than others. We'll probably do the somewhat easy prediction in some groups of saying we think that team will go through, and then we'll probably flag up a team that might surprise in each group, in the groups where it's particularly relevant. But and the groups will flash up on the screen as we speak about them as well. But Group A, which is where we'll begin, logically, this is exactly what you were talking about in terms of there's enough teams in this group of good enough quality to potentially cause some issues, because Egypt, obviously one of the strongest sides, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, Ethiopia and Djibouti. Now Djibouti, of course, heavy underdogs in this one. They are currently FIFA ranking 50 places lower. It's a terrible phrasing of that sentence, but they're 50 places lower than Ethiopia, who are the next worst team. But Ethiopia, a reasonably solid side. Sierra Leone have shown, although they were quite poor in AFCON qualification this time around, they're still a decent side. They showed that at the last AFCON. Guinea-Bissau, they've been improving a lot recently. Burkina Faso. they're always one of those teams that I used to hate to play on FIFA on international games. They'd be at that
Was it
3.5 star.
Petropia?
Yes, Jonathan Petroipa.
And Bertrand Traore.
Yes.
Recently at Villa and Lyon. They're good players, mate. I think Group A is an interesting one. I think Egypt are still so reliant on Mohamed Salah that I think this is a good chart, mate. I think Burkina Faso, they only missed out on the World Cup last time on goal difference, I think. I was reading some bits before hopping on. So this could be their prime opportunity to pip Egypt to that first spot and qualify for their maiden World Cup. But that would be incredible. Or maybe get into that second spot. Who knows? From our sort of DNQ lens, you touched on Djibouti there. I spotted this one. They've got a tough draw there, mate. They do kind of those closest rivals. When I say closest rivals, the teams that are closest ranked to them in that group. Yeah, they are quite ahead of them, Ethiopia and Sierra Leone. So not expecting much. Even though they're off the back of a successful Four Nations Cup, though, aren't they? The Mauritius Four Nations Cup, they had a good run out there. But this is a whole level of new quality. So I think group. I mean, look, Djibouti, Minnow Nation perspective, putting my lenses, my DNQ lenses on for that. I think it's going to be a tough time for them. I think Group A will be a really interesting one though, because Egypt, Burkina Faso. It's just it's an exciting opportunity, actually, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Is it worth, before we go any further? Actually, we're at Group A. For anyone that's here and that's made it this far, because I think we're probably at least 5 minutes into this video now. Firstly, drop us a like on the video because it massively helps the channel, and then put in the comments your expected winners for each of the groups. There's only 9 teams, and or a team that you think is going to surprise us.
Package.
The surprise package. Yeah, throw some comments down there, and we will, as always, get involved in the chat. We love kind of conversation. We like the channel to be a hub of conversation, whether it's about international football at the top level, bottom level. I mean, preferably at the bottom level, but either or. We're not picky, and also it helps the algorithm. Group B.
Group B. Now, for me personally, Group B is one of these where my laser focus is on second spot. Senegal, DR Congo, Mauritania, Togo, Sudan, and South Sudan. Derby. South Sudan derby. I think that Senegal will win this quite comfy, actually. I think that DR Congo, not quite the side they were maybe even around a decade ago.
Does Yannick Bolasie still play for them?
I don't know. He's been injured so much. I'm not sure on if he's played. But and they went through a period of having like a really strong side with lots of players in top leagues across Europe, not necessarily kind of Premier League, but all around Europe. And I just feel like recently I still look at them and go, "Ooh, good team there, DR Congo." But whilst they're not bad, I don't think they're quite as good as maybe I mentally still have them.
It's because, mate. It's because we go back to those FIFA games. Our favourite ever games, by the way. So if you're coming here and you don't know that, the FIFA World Cup games are the reason that we do this. This is where we found the love. DR Congo always used to bang on those games. They had Mbakani. Mbakani, and there was one other, Shabani Nonda, I think as well. Yeah. That's a name. That's a throwback name. Mate, I think you've banged this one out perfectly. I think Senegal will they've got the quality. They are one of the strongest teams in Africa. I think what you've got the rest of this group is it's a solid group across the board, and other teams are quite balanced, and they'll nick results off of each other. Will mean that actually what you might find here is you might find that second spot could be a rogue team, someone that you haven't thought that might end up there, a Togo or a Mauritania, to give themselves an outside shot of an interconfed spot. Senegal to cruise it. South Sudan's an interesting one because they will give a few teams a test here, by the way. They'll fancy nicking something off Sudan and Togo, especially if they're at home. Well, the home games, they'll fancy that. They've been running teams quite close. They lost their most recent game was a 3-0 loss to Egypt, so that sort of counters my point. But they do run teams quite close. Only lost to Gambia, I think 3-2 in AFCON qualifiers.
I was going to say, a lot of their games are by a kind of one goal margin. They kind of rarely get turned over. And like you say, when you're looking at teams, all right, Egypt's maybe slightly different, but when you're looking at a side like Gambia are in and around a similar level, you'd say, to Mauritania, probably slightly better than Togo and Sudan. So I do expect South Sudan to not get battered every game. I definitely think they'll put up a fight, and I do think
they'll do more than make up the numbers. I think
so.
I think they'll. Yeah, it's only their third ever World Cup qualification campaign, they've played 4, they've lost every one. I don't think they'll lose every game as part of this, but more importantly, they've only played 4 games. They're going to play more than 10. Double that as part of this. So that's cool.
But I will say Mauritania is one of my early shouts to get to surprise and get to that playoff.
You just love the fact that Abubakar Kamara plays there. AK-47.
AK-40. Yeah, he had.
He celebrated like that. Did he used to celebrate like that?
Kamara 47 because it's AK-47. But you know what? I saw him playing in the last AFCON, and I just thought that's incredible. But generally speaking, they are improving. He's ridiculously muscular. Yeah,
Who's bigger, me or Kamara?
Okay. Group C. This one again, I think is an interesting one. I don't think you've got. Again, you've got a reasonably clearly strong side. You've got Nigeria, South Africa, Benin, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, and Lesotho. Now, Lesotho did particularly well in COSAFA Cup.
Beaten finalists.
Yes, indeed. But nonetheless, an incredible result for them. And again, are they going to do more than make up the numbers? Potentially, they are the highest ranked side that were in pot 6. At 152, not to be sniffed at all. When you're competing with sides like Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Benin, I think it's going to be tough. I think this group is stronger overall than Group B, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that Benin are one of those underrated sides, and South Africa. I mean, they're just quietly good, really. South Africa. I don't think they're. Again, I always think in my head they're slightly better than they actually are. But they always compete, and I do think they'll be in and around that second spot as you'd expect them to be. I do expect Nigeria to win the group, but I think there'll be a few teams that can nick points off of them.
Yeah, I echo that, mate. I was reading, it was a piece done from a Nigerian perspective on the draw, and they're quite disappointed with the draw because a lot of the nations that they've drawn are quite high in the pots.
Yeah.
So South Africa they're the 3rd team in pot 2. Benin is the 2nd team in pot 3. Rwanda are the 4th team in pot 5. So it's not quite the same for both Rwanda and who's the other team in it? And Zimbabwe. Yeah, that's not quite the same. But then Lesotho are the top team in pot 6. So they were quite actively sort of disappointed in the draw. They thought they'd been given a tough draw there, which is quite interesting. They're the favourites. But it won't be plain sailing for them, I don't think. Lesotho, I think they could pick up some points from the low seat. I think they'll pick up some points. I think they'll be competitive. They've got some good players, good run in the COSAFA Cup, as you've mentioned. They've got, mate, do you know, they've got so many players as part of their squad that play in Lesotho. Not many play outside of the country, which I thought was interesting. I was looking at the squad. You can say like the current team, and it's just Lesotho flag just everywhere. Not sure why. Not sure why that is.
Obviously South Africa, Lesotho's not much of an away day, geographically speaking. But Nigeria, Lesotho, how many times in recent history has that fixture happened? And that's why it's good sometimes to not have that prelim round, so that Lesotho. I mean, how are these teams ever going to improve if they only play sides in and around their own ranking? So. Yeah, I think this is another example of a side that they've done well in COSAFA. So can they kind of push on when it comes to November in their first few games in Group C? But I agree. I think that Nigeria will win, and I think South Africa or Benin will come second. But I think there'll be some close games.
Do you want to know how many times Nigeria played Lesotho? Played them 4 times in history.
Okay.
Most recently in 2021, African Cup of Nations qualifying. Or maybe in the African Cup of Nations. It's all has been 2006, 2007, 2019 and 2021.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And again in 2023.
Absolutely.
Forming quite the rivalry. But moving on to Group D, and thanks so much for sticking with us. We're approaching the sort of quarter of an hour mark now. We're not even really halfway through these groups, so
we'll pick up the pace.
We'll keep going. I am wearing the shirt of the highest ranked team in this group, Cameroon. They are joined in Group D by Cape Verde, Angola, Libya, Eswatini, Mauritius. Now this one, again, quite an interesting group, really. Mauritius hosted the 4 Nations tournament that they played in recently. Good to see them have a go out there. They did pretty well in a couple of games that they played. They didn't do amazingly, but it was good to see them play. They are obviously one of the the weaker sides in the tournament, 180 in the rankings. The next best team a long way above them in Eswatini, one of the sides that I think are probably slightly better than their ranking of 1, 4, 6. But again, this is another group where like Cape Verde are a solid side, Angola, lots of players across the top kind of divisions of Europe. For me, I think that I see a bit of a top 3, bottom 3, and I don't mean disrespect to Libya, Eswatini or Mauritius in this one, but I think those 3 will battle it out for the points that they'll get. And I think that they won't roll over to the bigger sides, but I think Angola, Cape Verde, Cameroon are just that bit stronger personally.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for Cape Verde or Angola to push Cameroon for that auto spot.
Yeah.
Cameroon haven't been in great form. We've seen AFCON.
Yeah,
they've
exactly.
got what should have been a really gimme group in AFCON qualifying with Namibia and Burundi.
Yeah.
Isn't it 2 of those 3 go through, and they haven't even confirmed that yet or something?
No, it's not confirmed. Cameroon can still go out. It's unlikely, but if they lose to Burundi in, I believe, September, they will be out of AFCON, and then a month later, or 2 months later, I should say, they'll go into this. And listen, Cape Verde, Angola, these aren't easy games. If you can't comfortably get enough points on the board against some of the lower ranked sides like Namibia and Burundi, you're not in a great spot.
No, mate, Cape Verde they've got players sort of playing all across the top leagues of Europe, as you've said. Decent results of late in AFCON qualifiers. Angola-ish the same, not quite as in good form as Cape Verde, but it's a real opportunity for them to push Cameroon for that spot, which I think it's makes this qualification region so exciting. I think that the top 3, bottom 3 split is a really good way of putting it, mate, to be honest. I think it's bang on. Mauritius, there's a big thing here, isn't there, about like the games that they've not been playing, have they? Sort of, we're looking at the other end of the group now, sorry, sort of that DNQ lens. So they've played 6 games in 2023 already, and that's more than they've played in the last sort of decade. It's not a decade, is it? You've known these stats. What's the stat around that?
I believe it was something like in the last 8 years or something they've not played this many competitive games, and that's only going to continue. And like you say, we're kind of jumping for joy when they set up a 4 nations tournament when they get to play a handful of games, and they actually get to play 10 in this, which is going to be excellent. I'm not sure. I suppose all the teams will travel to Mauritius. I'm not sure if they'll play kind of games on the mainland or if they'll be at home. I'm not sure, but it would be good if they did.
Not sure. They've only ever won 1 World Cup qualification game, Mauritius, and they've played in 9 World Cup qualification campaigns. This is their 10th. That's. It'd be interesting to see how they get on. I think they'll be up against it though. As I think you're a bottom 3. I think you're right, but I think Mauritius, the jump then from them to Eswatini and Libya is big. It's like Group A when we were talking about Djibouti and then the jump to Ethiopia.
And Djibouti beat Mauritius as well, didn't they, in that 4 nations tournament? So
yeah, they did.
It is going to be tough. Eswatini in particular, for a top 5 team, they're a very, very solid team.
They'll have a good go, Eswatini. They went out so their recent form's not been great. Went out in CAF Cup group stages, so they're not in the best form. They've only won 1 game in 2023, actually, Eswatini. But they're still a good team, and you'd expect them to. It's the top 3, bottom 3 split in this group that you said, mate. I think you're bang on with that.
Moving on to Group E, and the strongest side in Africa, debatably, Morocco will look to cruise to victory in this one, I'd suggest. Joined by Zambia, Congo, Tanzania, Niger and Eritrea. Still yet to be confirmed whether or not Eritrea will participate. They've obviously dropped out of a few tournaments recently. I think the last time they played was when Okbay scored that incredible goal in... What tournament
Mate, I think was that? Yeah, but I think that was the CACAFA. That was CACAFA. Yeah. But I think they've played World Cup quali since then for 2022.
Was it?
Yeah. So the only games they're the second poorest. I don't know how they're not the lowest ranked nation in Africa. I don't know how Somalia are ranked lower than them, but the fact they don't ever play.
I think they're close to dropping out of the rankings, to be honest, because you know,
They just don't play. They don't play. They only do ever turn up for World Cup qualification, which is normally the first round, which they lose after 2 legs, and then that's it. That's the campaign over. They've not played since 2019, which was the 2022 World Cup qualifiers against Namibia, where they drew 1 and then they lost 1 and then they went out. They had Goitom and all of that play for them. So it'll be interesting to see what team they can cobble together for a nation that's not played for years. As I said this on the last video, and I'll say it again now. They've in the last 11 years, Eritrea have only played 20 competitive football matches. If they do take part in this World Cup qualification campaign, they'll play 10. So it's quite incredible. But across what will be probably a year and a half qualification campaign or however long it runs for, it will be very interesting to see if they do play a full part. This is really kind of opposite. You've got real opposite ends of the scale in this group, haven't you? With Morocco, that are just off the back of the semi-final in the most recent World Cup, and then Eritrea that haven't played since the qualification started for the last one. What do we think about the kind of the group in between? It's quite hard to sort of look at, really. I feel like the Morocco should and could go on and cruise the group. The rest, it's you feel like they can all take points off of each other.
Yeah, it's one of those. So I'll go out there early doors. It doesn't matter if I'm wrong with this one. I think if Morocco want to, they will win every game. I think that they are that good. They're just outside the top 10 in the world. And there's quite a big jump between them and Zambia, just particularly if you're looking at the other teams in pot 2. Zambia, third lowest ranked, 84. That's quite a big jump between Morocco at 13 and Zambia at 84. And I know that world rankings aren't sort of the be all and end all, but when you've got Burkina Faso in Group A as the second place, second pot side, it's quite a big jump. I also think that Zambia aren't guaranteed to beat Congo and Tanzania. I do think that...
Or Niger, mate. I don't think.
So much. It's not guaranteed. And I think that the middle of this group will be quite messy. I think a lot of the teams will take points off of each other. I think that Congo might just miss out on AFCON qualification, depending on how that group goes. But they've done well in games against Gambia and Mali in that one. And of course, they played against South Sudan, who we touched on earlier as well. So, look, Zambia are a decent side. I just don't think that they're guaranteed that second spot. I think that Eritrea will come bottom, Morocco will come top, but I, quite excitingly, have no idea how the other 4 sides are going to stack up in this one.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I'm the same. We shall see. Just looking at Niger played Tanzania as part of AFCON qualifiers and lost 1-0. So
yeah, it's close.
Again, it's close, isn't it? That was an away game. So who knows? It'll be close, my friend. We shall see. Group F. Let's go.
Group F, indeed. Ivory Coast, Gabon, Kenya, Gambia, Burundi, Seychelles. Kenya will be back from their FIFA ban for this one. Of course, they're not part of AFCON qualification, which is that group we touched on earlier with Burundi and Namibia in it as well. Gabon, you'd expect them because people know about Aubameyang to be slightly better than they are. Again, I think this one's one that will be quite closely contested. I do think this is quite open. It'll be interesting to see what Kenya do when they get back. I think it's a tough group for Gambia. We've focused on Gambia a few times on this channel. I do think it's a tough group for them. I think it's an interesting group for the Seychelles as the Minnow Nation side. Obviously one of the lowest ranked sides in Africa. They've played lots of games recently, including against San Marino. They're reasonably tough to break down defensively, so they might push for some clean sheets in their home games. But I think this is a very tough group, to be honest.
It's a tough group for Seychelles, mate. They're very lowly ranked anyway. They're not. Look, they know exactly what they are as a team. They're quite solid at the back, and they play to that when they're playing against other small nations. Right? They try and keep it tight. Offensively, they do lack, and the quality gap between them and the rest of the teams in this, I think, will be quite telling. It would be good if they can find a way to grind out a point or two. I think they'll consider it a good campaign. I think when you talk about like Gambia and how they'll feel all this draw, whilst it's a tough draw and every team is solid, on the flip side they'll look at it. I don't think they could have asked for a better draw to try and qualify for the World Cup directly. Ivory Coast are the lowest ranked team in pot 1. Then you've got Gabon, who are the second lowest ranked team in pot 2. Kenya are in the middle of pot 3, and then it's them. Not playing many games, and then it's them towards the top of pot 4, and then they have Burundi who are mid pot 5. I think Ivory Coast are the obvious favourites, but I would say that if any of those teams put together a decent run, they could end up directly qualifying for the World Cup, and I would put Gambia in that bracket, honestly.
So you think top spot's even up for grabs?
I think top spot is even up for grabs just because of how tricky and testing some of these African teams can be. Mate, some of these teams are so underrated.
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing is ever a given. Nothing is ever a given when these nations play against each other, and that's proven sort of time after time with AFCON qualifiers and AFCON the tournament itself. So Ivory Coast, obvious favourites, but I don't think it would be out of the question if Gabon, Kenya, Gambia really kind of pushed and squeezed for that top or second spot. Burundi, they'll pick up a few results. They've got some good players there. Seychelles, they'll struggle, but hey, 10 games of the Seychelles and Warren Melly defending.
Absolutely.
Just heading everything out. Group G, my amigo, come on, last couple.
Yeah, Group G, and this is kind of back to the old routine of a side you'd expect to win most games, and then a plethora of teams that could do all right in the middle. You've got Algeria, a very strong side. Guinea, who are a very strong team as well from Pot 2. Uganda, a strong side from Pot 3. And then you have a kind of bottom 3 situation again. I think that with Mozambique, Botswana, Somalia, I think that they will all compete with each other. I do think we've seen improvement from some of those sides recently, particularly Somalia, who of course are lowest ranked. I think that they can do themselves some favours world rankings wise. Perhaps will go up a couple of places in terms of the African teams, because if Eritrea do play and they lose games, Somalia I think have got a better chance, maybe against Botswana, maybe against Mozambique, to pick up a couple of points. But I do think that this one, for me, is Algeria top, and then Guinea, Uganda battling it out for second, and then out of those 3 teams, up for grabs, certainly, in terms of some points and some world rankings points. But I think it would be a tough ask for Mozambique, Botswana or Somalia to charge for second.
Yeah, I agree. I think from our side, from our perspective, you look at Botswana, but actually let's focus on Somalia actually as what we'd call like a pure sort of DNQ nation. They've had a bit of a tough run. They had that quite testing double legger against Eswatini as part of AFCON preliminary qualification. Tough couple of games for them. They ran out 5-1. They were defeated 5-1 over 2 legs. Chan qualification, only a 1-0 defeat to Tanzania. That's not bad at all. And some of the players, they're trying to develop a new sort of younger squad with a blend of players that are actually sort of based all over the world, mate. They've got quite a few that are in the UK Football League system, quite a few that are in the American college MLS college feeder program. Sorry, I don't know enough about that to kind of comment, but it will be interesting to see what they can do against those other sort of bottom 2 teams in the group, the Botswanas and the Mozambiques of this world. And it would be great. Again, they've only played 3 games, I think, since the start of 2022. They get 10 games here. Come on, let's build some team cohesion, build a team, build a team with some personality that your nation, that the fans can get behind, and kind of build a bit of an identity with this team. It'd be great. It'd be great to see, mate. I'm really looking forward to it.
It would, and whilst this is one of the most potentially plain sailing groups for kind of a top 3, bottom 3 situation, from a DNQ perspective, that makes it a little bit more interesting. We're not asking any of these teams in pot 6 to qualify for the World Cup, but it would be good if they could just get some wins or even some draws under their belt as part of this 10-game situation as well. But now we're going to move on to, I'm just going to go out there, I think it's my favourite group.
Pot H? Group H, sorry?
Group H.
Sorry, Pot H, Group H, yeah.
Tunisia, Equatorial Guinea, Namibia, Malawi, Liberia, Sao Tome and Principe.
Is it the best collection of flags? God, the flags are good.
Oh, that's such a tough question. I do think.
Group D's good. Group D's good for flags. Sorry, I'm scrolling. I'm looking at flags.
Group D.
To be fair, actually, sorry.
Group C's good.
Yeah, they're all good. They're all so good. Group D is good. Group H is a good one anyway. Sorry, mate. Yeah, that's not football related, is it?
I mean, it sort of is. I will say that's such a tough question. Oh, they're good. I don't know. I do think that. Just
sorry, mate. Just to interject, if you're still with us and watching this video and you haven't liked it or commented, why on earth have you not done that? Do it now. Also, throw down your favourite group for the collection of flags. We're big flag fans. Make sure I enunciated that correctly on this channel as well. So
big time.
Give us your thoughts.
What's your overall favourite flag from Africa?
Oh, another question. I don't know if I can answer that when I've been put on the spot. Eswatini, I always love.
Yeah, Eswatini's a great one.
Ooh.
I do like Kenya as well.
Yeah, Kenya's good. I also quite like Namibia. Quite simple but
Yeah.
different. Anyway, mate. Sorry. Group H. Tunisia to win, probably.
I don't know. Yes, probably. But Equatorial Guinea, Namibia are in good form. Malawi, Liberia, Sao Tome. I expect Sao Tome to come bottom. But this one, there's no kind of. Tunisia have no right to expect themselves to walk this one. You've got a number of teams in that group. Equatorial Guinea, they're in pretty good form for their world ranking. I'm talking across the last few years, where they've come from to now actually being part of the conversation around African Cup of Nations and things like that. Namibia are in pretty solid form. I just don't think it will be easy. Tunisia, obviously, a strong side, always been consistently strong in CAF, but I think this one's up for grabs for any of those teams. And I think
Yeah, I
it'll be
like it.
entertaining.
I think so, mate. I think so. Do you know what I love when you go through these? I love looking at national team squads and the plethora of players that sometimes come together to form a team.
Yeah.
Liberia is a fantastic example. You've got Oscar Dawley that plays midfield for them, 31 caps, plays for Slavia Prague, and he lines up alongside Mohamed Sangare of Accrington Stanley.
Yeah.
It's just so good, isn't it? It's so good. Up front, Ketu Gerbo of B Mountain.
Africa's probably best for that, actually.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Marcus Macaulay. Oh, he plays in Malaysia. PDRM. Yeah,
But
no,
I don't know who's going to win this one, but I tell you what, I would love to see Equatorial Guinea be in and around certainly that playoff spot. But I do think this could be one of those groups where if Tunisia have a couple of off days, someone could qualify from the World Cup, like Namibia.
yeah. Equatorial Guinea have never qualified. Obviously, they've played 28 games in World Cup qualification and only won 8.
Well, yeah. Could they win all 10 this time? Probably not. But they could do. And that moves us on to the final group, a really tough group actually in Group I. I don't
Toughest
know.
group, would you say? Toughest group?
Yeah. For me, toughest group, purely because. So let's run through. You've got Mali, Ghana, the pot 2 side, Madagascar, Central African Republic, Comoros, and Chad. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, none of those are easy games. All right, Chad, the lowest ranked side in that one, but I don't think that they'll be kind of battered by everyone. But like, if you're Mali, firstly, obviously being in pot 1, like great, but when the side you draw from pot 2 is Ghana, you must be thinking, what's the point in even being in pot 1?
It's tough. That is really, really tough. This is such a balanced group. Madagascar have done well in recent AFCONs. I don't think they've been in great form of late, though, have they, actually, Madagascar?
Not hugely.
Comoros, again, did fairly well at that last AFCON that we kind of covered, but they've not been in brilliant form. They crashed out the group stages of the recent CAF Cup, beat Seychelles 3-0, you'd expect it, lost to Zambia, lost to Malawi. Madagascar, they've not won since 2022, 2021. They didn't win in 2020. They haven't won for almost 2 years here, from what I'm looking at. But it will be evenly balanced. Yeah, Mali and Ghana, that will be really close. I do expect those two to come in first or second, though, mate, if I'm being honest. Chad, it'd be great to see them play more than just 2 games. They've only played 2 games since the start of 2022. It'd be cool to see. They've got a 35-year-old striker called Ezekiel Ndusel, 15 goals in 47 caps, who plays also in Malaysia, actually. Negeri Sembilan, in the Malaysian league. He's still racking up caps.
Caps and goals.
At the age of 35, which is cool. Balanced group, interesting group, Mali or Ghana. We're looking at it now with 0 points, and they're in first and second spot because of how it's done on ranking and pot. I expect it will probably end up that way, but it will be not the campaign itself, mate. It will not be easy. It's such a meaty campaign. There's so much to enjoy and to follow.
Whoever avoids the banana skins that are throughout this group will win it. Really, I mean, I do think that, like you say, it will be Mali or Ghana that will come top 2, and it's about how they get on against the rest. I think they could easily play each other twice and each beat each other once. So that could be a sort of shootout, as it were. But, it's like, who will do better against Madagascar? Who will do better against Central African Republic and Comoros? Obviously, how much of a fight can Chad put up as well? But before we finish, so we just rattled through the groups there. Obviously, as we've said multiple times, it'd be great to have your comments on this. If you think we've made any glaring errors or any individual players that we may not have mentioned that we need to know about. We're
going to put a graphic up, or just go over it so people can see. You're going to zing it up now.
Zing what up?
Ping. The groups.
The groups have been going up throughout the video, my man.
Good man. Okay, fine.
Don't be worrying.
Sorry.
We do this in a post edit, so he can't see anything currently. Yeah, obviously everything we do here is so high tech. But a closing point that I'm keen for your thoughts on. I'm just going to put you on the spot. Which pot 6 team will get the most points?
South Sudan.
I completely agree. Completely agree. That makes it quite quick and easy. Yeah, I nice. Do. Yeah, I don't think it'll be Lesotho, despite them being the highest ranked. Just because I feel like that Group B, South Sudan, they've got Sudan, Togo, Mauritania, DR Congo. I think they'll lose both times to Senegal, but I do agree. I think South Sudan.
There we go.
Yeah, of course, comment as well. You got a number of things to comment. You need to comment who you think is going to win every group. Comment 5 separate things. In fact, 1 comment each for each group who you think is going to win it. Your surprise package, your favourite flags, and of course which pot 6 side you think will do best as well. But you've been with us for around half an hour now, maybe slightly over that. So all that we can say is thank you. Thanks for joining us on DNQ as we talk through this phenomenal World Cup qualification setup. We can't wait for it. It kicks off in November, and you can bet your bottom dollar that we will be tracking it as we go through. So, as always, all that's left to say is thank you, and we'll see you next time.